Hi everyone, it's Fiona Marks here, and I'm back with another summary overview of a reading. And these, I'm just putting these together when I've done a reading for someone and we've had a great discussion and it's all made sense at the time. And then later you want to share it with your friends or those important people in your life, and you're trying to remember how to put it all together. So this is by no means an extensive run through of our reading. It's just capturing the main themes that we talked about. So let's get into this chart. And one of the things that we can notice straight away is that we have got an ascendant in Leo. Let's just see if I can highlight that for you. The first house is here in Leo. And we know that the sun rules Leo. So we want to have a look in terms of the life path of this person and what's important to them, their direction. What's happened to the sun? Where did it go at the time of birth? And we can see that the sun is right here in the 12th house. So straight away, we know that that's going to give a focus on transcending this experience of being in the body, of moksha, of enlightenment. So that was one of the things that framed my approach in the discussion of this chart, was that I knew that that would be important to the person's life. And then another really important thing that's going on in this 12th house, let's just change the color here. Let's go with orange, Jupiter's color. Look what we have here in the 12th house is an exalted Jupiter in the 12th house. Jupiter is at its best when it's in Cancer because it helps that spiritual intellectualism or the theorizing, the philosophy that can be maybe theoretical. It helps in Cancer have that connection to the emotions, have that connection to the masses, as the moon represents both the emotions and the masses. So here's the exalted Jupiter, a spiritual planet in a spiritual house. And not only that, but in this particular chart as a Leo ascendant, Jupiter is ruling the 5th house and the 8th house. And these are both got their very spiritual energies. The 5th house is of all that sacred knowledge, of mantras and of sacred texts, and it's of our legacy that we're leaving here as well. And the 8th house is another moksha house, so another house interested in enlightenment, and it's a house of delving deep into the mysteries of existence. So Jupiter is ruling these two powerfully spiritual houses, and it's exalted in the person's 12th house when their life path is also highlighting that the 12th house is going to guide their direction in life. So this was an enormous part of the conversation that we had, the importance of that exalted Jupiter, the experience of that, of wisdom, of teaching and of teachers, and really validating for this person how special that placement is, how meaningful it is, and to trust that that path is evolving. So that was one of the main topics that we talked about. Now, we also, of course, there are other things to focus on in this chart, and we can see those right here when we return to the first house. We can see a couple of things. We've got Venus and Saturn right here on the ascendant in the first house in Leo. And this is a very marked combination for lots of different reasons. And let's begin to unpack that a little bit. We know that the ascendant lord, the sun, is in the 12th house. So we already know that this person's relationship with their body is perhaps going to be detached or challenged to sacrifice. The sun in the 12th house, requiring sacrifice of the body. So we have some indication right away that there are going to be challenges to the body from the get-go. And then we've also got Venus here on the ascendant being starved in a few ways. What I'm going to talk to you about here is we've got Venus being starved by being with Saturn, and Saturn is starves whoever it's with, even though Venus and Saturn are friends normally, right? Normally they get on well and actually kind of bring out the best in each other, but whenever a planet is conjunct Saturn, it's going to be very challenging and cause this starvation, Lajjitaadi Avastha. And also we can see that Saturn in this chart is ruling the 6th and 7th houses over here, because Saturn owns Capricorn and Aquarius. So we know that the person is perhaps going to find that this 6th Lord, Saturn of health, in the 1st house is going to bring health challenges and struggles, going to bring obstacles, perhaps enemies for the body. And when Venus is starved by Saturn, we know that it's going to create lack in those areas that Venus rules, but also in the karakas for Venus, which in this case are, Venus is a karaka for love and for receiving our desires, having our love desires fulfilled. With Saturn there, we're seeing some quite distinct starvation of that. And if we head over here and we have a look at the Lajjitaadi Avasthas, when we look at Venus being starved by Saturn, here we go. We can see that in relationships, this is possibly going to cause lack, and it makes love hard work sometimes. And interestingly, this will come up later actually, but while we're here, you know, in a woman's chart, it means that the partner can detract from the person's great life purpose. Sorry for my crooked line there, but this is showing us that there are real challenges to those love relationships, and we can talk about that a little bit, and we did in the reading. But as another karaka, Venus is representing the DNA. So when we go back to this first question, we're just on the body and the health and the life path. We can see that there might be quite some challenges to the health. That is, the 6th Lord is challenging this Venus, which represents the DNA. So looking at this straight off the bat, we know that there could have been some real challenges here in the birth, in the life, in that arrival into the body, some challenging conditions. We also have Venus being starved by the sun because it's in the sign of Leo, you know, and that's what we really need to get starvation from the sun. And if we go to Venus being starved by the sun, you know, it's requiring that the person sacrifices their personal or nurturing desires in order to achieve greatness. So some real challenges to the DNA from the get-go. Then we've got Saturn is also there in the house, and Saturn is being starved by the moon in that position. So it's also tapping into those emotions not being met. And then, as well as that, we've got Mars in the 2nd house, and we know that Mars is a malefic planet, which just means that it is demanding and challenging, and it teaches through challenging us, through asking us to meet a challenge. So it's not the kindest of teachers, but we can learn very great lessons from these planets, but they don't necessarily come with an instruction manual, and they certainly don't come with a cheerleader. You know, they're really tough, hard challenges that are set for us. So all of these things, and then I guess even the fact, yes, that we've got Rahu here in the third house, in this house of the third house is of our independence and exploring ourselves and feeling that sense of confidence and courage. Having Rahu there means that we're definitely going to be drawn to be courageous and to overcome these battles. So it's actually a great indicator given this chart, but it does also mean that karma is going to take place in action through our own exploration and our own struggle to be courageous. That's how our karma is going to work out here related to Rahu. So for all of these reasons, we can see that this is a very challenging arrival into the body and early childhood. So we talked about that quite a lot. And when you see all of those factors stacked on top of each other, you know that life has really asked this person to step up from the beginning. And you can see as the first lord is in the 12th house that perhaps all of those experiences are going to lead the person to look for the spiritual meaning, look for the how to satisfy one's cravings for life or living and being alive through spiritual means. Now, of course, the other thing that also indicates the first lord in the 12th house is spending significant time in institutions and hospitals and ashrams away from interacting in the marketplace. So this is something that could give us a hint that perhaps this person had some seclusion also in this period of their life. So a very significant amount of indicators for the challenges that are being faced early in life. Okay, let's clear all of these markings, because what else did we talk about? There were just, these are maybe quicker, lighter things that are in the chart. There's a couple of indicators for living in a foreign land here, which, you know, is quite strong. We've got the seventh lord. Oops, let me get you some pen. The seventh lord, Saturn, is in the first house, telling us that 180 degrees away, that distance, that our life might be involved with something 180 degrees away from where we were born. And then we also have the 12th lord, the moon, is in the 7th house. So we're getting a repeating of these ideas that we may find that our life takes us to foreign lands, and with these indicators, like the 7th, 180 degrees away, and then the 12th is really distant lands. So that's something that we may see in this person's chart. Let's just check that we've covered that. Yeah. Then there are quite some strong indicators in the chart around relationships, and we briefly talked about that already. We've got, of course, Venus being staffed by Saturn, and that's what we already covered previously. There's challenges to meeting love relationships in this chart because Venus and Saturn being together, and that if it's in a woman's chart, those challenges could detract from the great life purpose of that woman's chart. So it's an interesting indicator to keep in mind. Then we've also got the moon as the 12th lord. So let's have a look here. We talked about this already. We've got the moon as the 12th lord, meaning that those emotions are happening in really one of the most hidden houses in the chart. So hard to bring those emotions to the surface, hard for other people to see them, hard to connect with people emotionally, perhaps. And then coming right back to the first themes that we talked about in this chart, we're returning now to Jupiter and seeing it here in the 12th lord. in the 12th house, sorry, that we might find that it's here, Jupiter is being agitated by being with the Sun. So we might find that there is for Jupiter some sacrificing of the 5th and the 8th, and those indicators are the 5th house as an indicator for children and the 8th house as an indicator for the conjugal bond. So there may be a tension between fulfilling that life of the Jupiter Karakas around mother of children and the conjugal bond, fulfilling those desire and intimacy, love relationships. There's kind of a few challenges to those. And that the exalted Jupiter might actually be asking for those to be spiritual, for that contribution that Jupiter makes to this particular life chart to be around the enlightenment, the transcending matter, finding good teachers, being a good teacher of those sacred texts, and that deep research that the 8th house is going to encourage this person to do into spirituality. So this is one of those things where you see in the chart that there are, we could say, unfortunate or undesirable placements like this Venus-Saturn starvation. But perhaps they are all guiding this chart to have that focus on the 12th house of transcendence, and through those birth and body experiences and being secluded from maybe even the family and certainly the playground outside the front of the house where we'd run around and play, in the 12th house, combined with Jupiter there being agitated by the Sun as well, sacrificing things around normal Jupiter Karakas like children. But maybe that this is a higher calling, and that the chart helps to funnel the person's experience to make these experiences, they make the life path clear. They make the path through this experience clear. And so while there are challenges to love relationships in the chart, they might be there to help focus the experience on the 12th house and the spiritual and the ascending. So that was a run through of some of the main themes that we covered in that discussion. If there are things that you thought were interesting, if you wonder if they're in your own chart, if you want to discuss your unique circumstances and where is the meaning in your chart, and how is the astrology of your chart helping you identify your unique calling, the meaning and purpose for you, that for every person is going to be different. But the chart, as you've seen here, it can really push and sway. Although there are all the options are on the table right from the get-go, it starts to narrow those options and push a person to have certain experiences, to take certain learnings, and therefore filter what they choose and what brings success and what brings connection for them. So if you're wondering what that is in your chart, I would love to take the time to discuss that with you, and I hope that you will book a session with me. Okay, great to chat with you. Look forward to seeing you soon.